Hello everybody, my name is Madman. I'm a competitive Splatoon coach and analyst, and today I'm going to be going over my Wellstring doc, which I have taken a long time to write. I'm just going to be reading this word for word, and I'm not going to be doing any edits because I simply don't have the time right now, but I will be bringing out some other good quality videos around this time. Introduction. This guide will highlight everything that there is to know about the Wellstring V in Splatoon 3. Most of this will likely apply to future installments in the series, but the kits will likely be adjusted. This is aimed at competitive play and was written as version 9.3.0. It will cover the fundamentals of Wellstring and allow for a strong understanding of the weapon to optimize its usage. While this will cover some simple ideas, it will also go into strategies that are more in-depth and made for experienced players to learn from. There will be links to VODs, videos on demand, or old videos just to watch back, in another tab, which I recommend you watch to understand more visually. There are a few images for examples, but these are sparse. These use the custom variant, but do apply to the vanilla variant. Vanilla refers to the first kit without a brand attached. Main weapon basics. This part is optional for those who have a basic, and I mean basic, understanding of the weapon. Wellstring V is one of the strongest stringers in Splatoon 3, and is an extremely strong main weapon in its own right. It shoots out 5 bullets at a time, and depending on its level of charge, will change the angle of the shots. With no charge, they are spread out at a small angle, and each bullet deals 24 damage. At half charge, all the shots line up for a short amount of time, allowing it to one-shot opponents that approach it, and is the main self-defense option. Past half charge, the bullets will start to scale in damage, up to 35 at a full charge. With a full charge, all the bullets are spread out to the point where you will only be able to hit opponents with one bullet at a time, unless they're right next to you. When you shoot, at a certain distance depending on your charge, your shots will start to fall. This allows it to shoot over cover, however it forces the user to aim above any opponents at a longer range. At any charge, jumping or falling will change the shot spread from horizontal to vertical, which can allow it to one-shot people from a distance, although very difficult since you have to angle it correctly. While you can spam full charge shots for consistent 30 damage hits, it should not be your only option as it does not threaten the opponent much. Focus on recognizing when it's best to use each level of charge, as each is better in certain situations than others. Full charges are best for supporting your teammates with both paint and dirt damage chips, while half charges are best to use to threaten an opponent's life independently and self-defense when needed. Wellstring has no widening frames, so it's actually decently ink efficient compared to many other weapons. It typically stays back as the anchor of its team rather than taking fights aggressively. Its vanilla kit has Autobomb and Ultra Stamp, while its custom kit has Point Sensor and Wavebreaker. Details of more complex ideas. Wellstring's ultimate goal is to stop the enemy from moving forward. It cannot do this on its own only using full charges, as they shoot less often and are best for team fights. For it to slow the enemy down optimally, it needs to take slightly more aggressive positions than a typical backline. Look at optimal position for more details. Wellstring does not have ways to defend itself up close, which can make the enemy hesitant to push it. Wellstring does have ways to defend itself up close, which can make the enemy hesitant to push it, but it's not fully consistent. Working on the timings for the one shot up close is key to being able to stay in aggressive positions and have an impact on the match, otherwise you will either be irrelevant or leave yourself vulnerable to being rushed down and killed. With the custom kit, you can save a Wavebreaker for when you get pushed and use it as a small shield to hide behind you as you charge a shot, and get a second chance if you miss. With the vanilla kit, you can use the Ultra Stamp as a self-defense tool, but Wellstring would rather use its stamps aggressively to help support a push when it normally wouldn't be able to do too much. Wellstring can defend itself on its own fine if you get used to it, and burning specials on just self-defense isn't always the best. Using Wavebreaker for self-defense may be better since it's still doing its normal job while defending you, it just comes at the cost of likely breaking and ending early. Often, if the opponent tries to shark, the act of hiding in ink and surprise attacking the opponent, then you will not be able to defend yourself in time. Both kits for Wellstring have a location tool as a sub, being Autobomb and Point Sensor. If you are fighting a weapon that likes to shark a lot, like a roller or a decapitator, and you don't know where it is, draw your sub at common sharking spots that it's likely to be hiding at, and draw your sub before your team tries to move through an area if you aren't sure about it's fully clear. Doing this lets you and your team know if the area you want to push is safe, and if there's someone that needs to be cleared out first. While Autobomb is the better sub at scouting large areas, when you do find someone with a point sensor, it keeps them marked for 8 seconds without any sub power up. If you are fighting an opponent that likes to shark often, play the custom kit and use some subs power to make sure that it's very hard for them to hide. Another tip with the custom kit is that after drawing a wavebreaker, you can see anybody nearly for roughly a second, so you should throw a point sensor at the people you find with the wavebreaker to mark them for longer and clear areas. People will run the custom kit in case a sharking weapon is picked, because it's the better kit at dealing with it and sharking weapons are decent right now. However, the vanilla kit is better aggressively, and because of its damage output is picked more often on Rainmaker. I think that both kits can be picked in certain situations, but the vanilla kit is better in solo queue. It is seeing more use competitively soon due to the recent patch 9.3.0, which buffed Ultra Stamp and allows Stamp to disable opponents. Which buffed Ultra Stamp and allows Stamp throws to disable opponents it would normally struggle to approach otherwise. Wellstring has some of the highest object damage in the game as a main weapon, making it really good at shredding Big Bubbler into Rainmaker Bubble. To get the most damage on objects, charge until the first ring is filled, and then shoot when the charge is right over half. It gets most of its damage from the explosives, so charging it fully for the extra damage is worse than shooting it right when it gains the explosives, because the fire rate is more important than the slight extra damage per shot. Learn how to hit objects from a distance by aiming above the target and charging to get the range you need to hit it. This will be really useful at poking enemy anchors and forcing them to respect you, while also making it easier to hit the weak spot on Big Bubbler. You can use this to also stop front lines or mid lines from aggressing by threatening to one-shot them if they get in your range. However, you should note that you can often just threaten them with chips more consistently and only go for the one shot when you can afford to. Make sure you can survive even if you miss. When going against dive comps, they will often try to move forward on their own to force space, and will often try to force good 1v1s for them. All of their weapons can push you when they want, so you have to be aware that someone will often run at you. To beat them, you need to punish them when they choose to advance on you. In order to punish them, you need to be prepared. The best way to prepare against dive comps is to understand what space they have and where they're going to move next. If you don't know where they're going to move, then you're going to struggle to fight them. For example, if they have left side of mid on Manta, someone's going to push bunker. And if you don't know that beforehand, they will get it for free. Stall comps are comps that try to wait out your resources before pushing in quickly to punish you. These comps often have weapons like rollers or 52, and use sharking as a way of slowing you down before punishing you quickly once they get an advantage. Wellstring counters this strategy. Just locate the opponents, disable their front lines, and they won't be able to stall you properly. While you do beat them pretty badly, you still have to respect them, otherwise you will get decimated instead. When you're moving forward, make sure you are throwing sensors, Autobomb, and Wavebreaker to ensure there's nobody sharking, and keep distance from enemy ink, since someone could approach you. Fighting against midline focused comps will be harder than the others because they are not as easy to abuse with Wellstring. Focus around supporting your team with chip damage so they can win their fights more often and claim space more securely. While you may not be able to slow down midlines as easily as front lines, they are already slower by nature, and you can try to disable them in some situations. Play like normal, but respect the fact that you cannot control midlines as easily as front lines. Midline focused comps are not exclusively midlines and do include a frontline typically, which we can use to our favor because Wellstring shuts down frontlines, and their frontline is often the main source of initiation. Us being able to shut down the frontline specifically will slow down their already slower comp. Hitting one-shots at any range can be really useful, but it's also really mechanically demanding and you need to have some leniency if you miss the shot. Do not put yourself in situations where you have to hit the one shot or die. Give yourself the chance of a second shot. Up close, this can be done by popping a wavebreaker for the custom kit and spacing the opponent where they cannot kill you easily. Since Wellstring has no whiting frames, it likes to dip in ink after it fires to help its uptime while also making it more difficult to pin down in fights. One thing to note is that when an enemy is hurt, they show up on the map. This allows us to see people's positions when they're behind cover and lets us attack them with actual direction. If we hit someone just once, we can target them even if they're behind cover where we normally couldn't see them using this. Also, we can use point sensors with the custom kit to mark them if we see them on the map to make it a bit easier to aim, since aiming with the map open is really hard. While we do want to pressure weak opponents, remember not to hyper-focus on them or ignore their teammates. Hyper-focusing on one thing is really bad in this game, so watch out for points on your screen, don't just where you're pressuring. For gear, I would recommend running swim speed to help keep distance from your opponents rather than run speed. Run speed works well on other stringers, but surprisingly not Wellstring. Wellstring is one of the slower stringers mobility-wise, and the run speed will not help it go much faster because it's too slow to be saved in the first place. Many people assumed that run speed would be strong on it, but the difference in it with and without run speed is minimal. Due to its aggression, I would highly recommend running stealth jump to help it get back in position quicker and safer after death. However, while stealth jump is a strong ability, object shredder is also good for it, namely on Rainmaker since they can contribute to getting pop with its already high damage being multiplied. The custom kit likes to have sub power as a way of keeping opponents marked for longer. While most other sensor weapons don't tend to use much sub power up, Wellstring has the gear freedom to spec into it. The vanilla kit likes special power and or special charge on its ultra stamp to be threatening up close for as long as possible. The special power is more focused on the rush mode and using it as a mix-up option, however throwing the stamp is useful in some situations which can make special charge more valuable than power depending on the player. While it is useful to strengthen parts of Wellstring's kit, some players may want to focus rather on increasing other attributes like its mobility or ink consumption. This is highly preference for how much you want to put into one attribute, but I recommend not entirely ignoring one. Also, due to Wellstring wanting to threaten the opponent as much as possible for as long as possible, I would also recommend main saver, ink recovery, or sub saver. The savers allow Wellstring to put up consistent pressure, which is useful since that aligns with the weapon's main goal. Since Wellstring likes all the savers, some people like to run LDE on it, with LDE being common in NA, but less common in Japan. I do not like LDE on Wellstring because I often find that 3 subs of main saver or ink recovery allow the weapon to stay up for all it needs. Anything more is excessive. So, with that in combination with LDE not being always active, I do not see much use in running it. Truly strong Wellstrings tend to run a few subs of ink recovery to cover the main and sub at the same time rather than committing to one. Wellstring builds are flexible, but I would recommend something similar to the following. And these are like examples, you don't have to copy it exactly. Salmon Run. Salmon Run is very different from the base game, so treat this section as separate from the rest of them, mostly. In Salmon Run, weapons have different damage values than in multiplayer matches. The damage changes from Wellstring are important, with the explosives going from 30 to 40 damage, a small increase, the uncharged bullets going from 24 to 50, a large increase, and the full charge bullets going from 35 to 120, which is an absurd increase. The tiny damage that the explosives do compared to the direct makes it almost completely useless. Wellstring gains damage a lot faster when it charges in Salmon Run compared to the multiplayer, going from a 46% increase in the multiplayer to a 140% increase in Salmon Run. This makes charging your weapon still worth it damage-wise, even if the explosives are weak. Wellstring has very strong tap shots in Salmon Run because it can kill Small Fry with a single bullet and kill Chum with 2 bullets, which often 2 will hit with overlap. If you get close to a boss or a Quahog, it will be best to jump and tap fire to deal the most damage the quickest. Charging shots are for more distant opponents that tap shots will either not reach or will be too inaccurate for. Wellstring is a very strong weapon at multiple jobs in Salmon Run, being able to kill both big and small salmon with ease, but it's typically not the best weapon for bringing eggs to the basket due to it being heavyweight. Because it's heavyweight, it moves slower than most other weapons in the game, while in the multiplayer we can reduce this by adding swim speed. In Salmon Run we do not have the gear abilities we can add to fix this issue. In the base game, a tap shot costs 7% of ink and a full charge costs 9%. But in Salmon Run, it only takes 4% for a tap shot and 8% for a full charge. This means that charging the weapon makes it use more ink compared to its tap shot, but the tap shots are very cheap to use. This practically makes the ink consumption the same no matter the charge because the rate of fire combined with the extra ink penalty for charging, it's very ink efficient so it can keep up pressure for long periods of time. Team comps. When it comes down to teammates for Wellstring, there are a few options that stick out as the best combo with it. The 2 weapons that come to mind are Slosher and NZAP 85, each for different reasons. When you're playing at high level competitively, it's basically required to have a teammate with Cooler for its support capabilities. I'm not going to go over why Cooler is needed so much at a high level, but there are 3 main options for your Cooler weapon, being Sniper Rider, Heavy Edit, and NZAP. While Sniper Rider and Heavy Edit are more dominant than NZAP, they are both anchors, which Wellstring already is the anchor of the comp. Running 2 anchors is very slow, and Cooler wants to be faster with faster comps anyways. Because of this, most anchors, excluding Sniper Rider or Heavy Edit, are often stuck with NZAP, which includes Wellstring. Heavy Edit and Wellstring are both on the more aggressive side of anchors though, which makes them able to work together to an extent. Wellstring prefers NZAP over Heavy Edit, but Heavy Edit still works with it. Slosher is very often paired with Wellstring because Slosher does a consistent 70 damage, which works very well with Wellstring's consistent 30 damage chips. Slosher also has triple ink strike, which can allow consistent entry compared to something like Zipcaster that Wellstring would struggle to follow up off of. Both weapons work really well together for creating a constant offensive pressure and being able to play really stable when needed. The 4th weapon in the comp is more flexible, with the slot being given to any decent slayer that works with chip damage. A few strong options for the 4th include Stamper Nouveau, Squeezer, Splat Dualies, S-Blast 91, and Mint Decapitator. There are other options, but these stand out most due to their strength and synergy with Wellstring and Slosher. I think the best option would be Stamper Nouveau, but all the other options can work really well. What Stamper Nouveau has is a 70 damage shot to combo with Wellstring's chips, 35 damage shots to combo with Slosher, and Crab Tank to anchor for when Wellstring is down or not in a position to help hold the enemies back, while also playing around the chip damage still. Mist also works by slowing the enemies down when the Wellstring cannot focus all its attention to it, and if there's mist on a choke while the Wellstring is shooting at it, the enemies cannot enter the area. Squeezer also works with a somewhat similar idea to it, but it's more aggressive with its Trizuka, using it to kill enemy backlines that Wellstring may struggle with. It does not exactly combo the same way Stamper does, but it still consistently takes less shots to kill, and you don't need to guess how hurt the opponents are for which mode you should use like Stamper, since there's only one offensive mode. Splat Dualies are a more aggressive option in general, with using its speed as its primary reason to be picked here. While it does offer speed, it also has a Crab Tank to slow down and hold space when it needs to. This allows for Dualies to be an aggressive but still flexible option that works with Wellstring. S-Blast 91 is picked for similar reasons, except it plays better around the chip damage and has Booyah Bomb rather than Crab Tank. Booyah Bomb can stall for a brief time for Wellstring to enter back in, but that is not Booyah Bomb's main idea. S-Blast is the even more aggressive option of the two, losing some flexibility entirely for aggression. Mint Decapitator is a more aggressive option that tends to play a bit more selfishly, but can work around teammates in some situations. It can use Wellstring or N-Zap's Paint to move up and Bubble to hold space. Big Bubbler does not have the most synergy with Wellstring, because Wellstring and the other weapons in comp typically do not want to play in the same positions as a Big Bubbler, nor can they fully defend themselves in a bubble, excluding Slosher, but it can still be useful in some situations. While this lists the best options playing around N-Zap and to an extent Heavy Edit, we have not talked about the option of Coolerless, or No Cooler. While Coolerless is suboptimal for most comps, it can work well when built around it. When going Coolerless, your best option for your support, replacing N-Zap or Heavy Edit, would be V-Splash due to Burst Bomb working well with the chip damage, and the Crab Tank for the same reasons stated earlier. Other options could work, but the Crab Tank and Burst Bomb are really valuable in this comp. When running V-Splash, the fourth weapon biases Crab Tank less, since we do not often need two Crab Tanks. This makes it our primary options for these comps be stuff like Squeezer, S-Blast, or Mint Decapitator. I did state a lot about how these comps were optimal, but please note that other options very well can work, even at a top level. These comps are not definite, they are just recommendations for the best options to pair it with. You can succeed with Wellstring paired with many weapons not mentioned, just make sure it has some synergy. And here's a few example comps, just based on what I said. Matchups and counters. Wellstring has the most trouble dealing with enemy backlines and most other things that outrange it. However, it has a very strong matchup in the short range weapons. Wellstring also struggles to hit things in the air like Inkjet and Zipcaster or on grates, but it can be more consistent with hitting them if it can get close to the distance. While the Wellstring may have an easier time hitting airborne targets up close, they also probably will have an easier time hitting it too. So make sure you know what situation you're getting into and if you should fight back or back out in these matchups. Often you will prefer to back out, but being able to recognize when to fight is very important to your success, since you are giving up less space and turning a bad situation into a good one. Zipcaster, while often can be hard to hit in the air, will have points where it's vulnerable for you to counterattack it, like if it zips close to you. Make sure to be patient when fighting Zipcaster, as it may be a bad matchup most of the time, but you can still get into good spots where you can take control. While Wellstring can get good situations against Zipcaster, it basically never gets that against Inkjet. Inkjet versus Wellstring is an extremely biased matchup where the Wellstring basically can't really fight back. Sometimes you can combo it dirty with a teammate or hit some insane shot, but that's very niche. Wellstring struggles at fighting three things: things with range, things with AoE, and things in the air. Combine those three things and what do you get? Obviously it's Inkjet. So as a Wellstring, you kind of have to just run and hide 99% of the time. The weapons with Inkjet right now are Tri-Slosher, Charcoal Decapitator, Anarchy Nova, Rapid Deagle, and Ballpoint. Tri-Slosher and Charcoal are not very scary even with Inkjet because they don't get it often, and their mains struggle with Wellstring. Nova is a bit more annoying since it does not interact with Wellstring until it has Inkjet and spamming it, so you only fight it when it counters you. But Ballpoint and Rapid Deagle are both really scary because they're mains along with the Inkjet. Ballpoint outranges you and can paint for a special fast and be a threat even up close. Rapid has Inkjet and has AoE to poke the Wellstring at any time. It hides behind cover and is often paired with Pencil, which also counters Wellstring. Wellstring also struggles with chargers because they outrange it by a considerable amount and can punish it quickly. When Wellstring is put against a charger, it often just has to hide from it constantly and play a lot more safe to not get punished. Wellstring will still be aggressive when it can, but the thing is it can't do it as often as the best it normally can get as a trade, and that often doesn't help. Cover is very important for the Wellstring to utilize when it's going against the Charger, as it can help the Wellstring still be a threat while not risking the death of the Charger constantly. This is pretty much just some matchups in a food chain of what loses to Wellstring and what beats Wellstring. Optimal positioning. Wellstring's positions slightly differ from your average anchor. There are some spots that it cannot afford to take because other backlines would punish it without it being able to fight back, like example 1, which is the bridge on Nailtail. While Wellstring does have to respect other anchors, it can take way more aggressive positions on offense or when the enemy backline is down. Having to respect anchors does make us play more passive positions on defense, but when we're on offense, we typically play in spots where we can poke key points while having cover nearby, like example 2, where we're on stack on Barnacle and we can poke at the 2 areas that our opponents want to push from. Most of the time, you want to be in a spot where you can watch off angles and flanks, no matter what the game state is in, like in example 3, where we can watch 3 different angles at once from the plat on ink blot. The job you have is to apply as much pressure as possible, and while that would typically mean more aggressive positions, we do have to be aware that we aren't dying when we don't have to. Play in spots that slow the enemy down as much as possible and deny them space when you can. When we're pushing, we need to stop them from getting to the key defending points. Wellstring is also really good at controlling the objective, so we often would prefer to pressure the objective when we can, but we can't always do that, for example if a roller was flanking us, because our priority is to disable the opponents. We pressure objective because it disables their push. They can't push Rainmaker or Tower if we're shooting at it after all. Learn what to prioritize to slow the enemies down as much as possible in a given moment. This often comes with time from seeing what's a threat and what's not. When none of the opponents are threatening anything, we can also use that time to move forward and take free space. Be aware of the opponents before you do anything. Check the map to see where they are and position around it. Positions are not a stagnant situation where it's like, okay, so on defense I go to point A, and on offense I go to point B. Spot in the meta and its use cases. Wellstring is one of the more underrepresented weapons in the game. It's pretty decent, yet nobody uses it outside of Rainmaker in Japan. Wellstring is a mid to high tier pick, but is often overshadowed by Sniper Rider and Heavy Edit. People don't like to use Wellstring because even though it's strong, it is difficult and forces you to play with a slightly slower comp even though it's a faster weapon, due to it often needing Ed Zap or Heavy Edit paired with it. If Cooler was not prevalent, Wellstring would be a top pick for anchors due to how much damage, paint, AoE, and other attributes it has going for it. Cooler disables Wellstring a lot because you'd rather have an anchor with Cooler than to make a more aggressive weapon have it just to gain a Wellstring. It is fully capable of winning majors in the right hands, but it takes effort and a team built around it to get there. Wellstring's only real use cases are being a one-trick weapon, a Rainmaker niche, or a counterpick option. Wellstring is easy to abuse its strengths in Rainmaker, where it can not only get pop instantly, but also stop the opponents from pushing at all. In Rainmaker, getting pop can be really valuable, so in Japan some people try to force getting pop with Wellstring. While it didn't win, Wellstring did well in the Rainmaker Kings Cup, which is a Japanese major held by Nintendo. Wellstring is fully capable of winning with enough effort, and I want the weapon to be represented a bit more because the only anchors used right now are Sniper Rider and Heavy Edit, even in low level. For the last time, meta does not matter in low level, play what you want. The things that matter is skill all the way up until like Div X Dur 1. Then here's a bunch of VODs and some sites for like data. You've probably heard of these sites. Like this is a GitHub, Sender.ink, and Splatoon Wiki. And then just like these are mostly Japanese VODs, but there is like a Char VOD from a while ago and some Salmon Run VODs. Special thanks to these people here for helping write this document. It's been a long time working on it, and they will also be in the description. Thanks for watching.